Welcome back to Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin here at our Restoration Nation. Today, we're going to bring you the Phoenix Firehouse. Welcome back to Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin. We're back in our home city of Natchez, Mississippi. We're bringing you the Phoenix Firehouse. Now, not only is this one of the most architecturally interesting buildings we've had the opportunity to bring you because it is, in fact, a converted historic firehouse, it's one of the most culturally significant. This building has close ties to one of the most tragic events in living memory here in Natchez, Mississippi. So let's go inside, take a look at its architecture, and learn a little bit about the history of the Phoenix Firehouse. Well, here we are inside the front room of the Phoenix Firehouse. Now, this is one of the few times that I'm going to take you on an architectural history tour, and I'm going to say to you that exposed brick and exposed beams are completely appropriate. When built, this building was completely utilitarian. It was not a finished building, and the areas in which we're standing would have been the bays for the fire trucks. So these brick walls, these soft fired brick, would have always been exposed. Your beams in your ceiling would always have been exposed. But this gives us the opportunity to really take a close look at some of the building materials used here in Natchez and how they evolved over time. These gorgeous beams will tell us almost exactly when this property was constructed. If you take a close look at all of the wood in this house, all of the wood on these beams above us, the webbing, all of the beams throughout the house, you will see circular saw marks. We did not get a sawmill in Natchez until around 1840. So we know that the wood inside this structure was milled at an automated sawmill, a mechanized sawmill here in Natchez sometime after 1840. There's no hand-hewn wood in here. There is no pit sawn lumber that I can see. The bricks are soft fire bricks. They are not made in a factory. They're different sizes, they're different shapes. They would have probably been fired on site. Okay, if this were my space, I have to tell you, I would be very tempted to convert some of this downstairs space into a workspace. Now, if you are, let's say, a mechanic, you need to know that both sets of the double bay loading doors for the original fire engines are still here and they're still functional. This one is hiding behind a Murphy bed. The one in the opposite room is hiding behind a bookcase. So let's say you want to buy a space where you can fix up your antique cars. You could take that out and have a garage space right here in the bottom floor. It would be an absolutely spectacular space for that and really return the building to more of its original function. Now let's talk a little bit about the fire department here in Natchez, Mississippi. Up through the 1940s, Natchez only had a volunteer fire department. There were 13 fire stations around town, all of them volunteer. There were only 2 of those fire stations that had paid employees that were paid to live on site and be present at all times in the fire station. And this fire station, the Phoenix Fire Station, was one of those 2. And behind me is the other set of loading doors for a fire engine in what is now the main living space of the Phoenix Firehouse. Behind you is the kitchen. So we have basically an open plan downstairs area. It makes it very modern, very fresh, very inviting in what is an incredibly historic building. So let's talk a little bit about firefighting in the city of Natchez up until the 1940s. Until the 1940s, the city of Natchez had only a fully volunteer fire department. But the fact that it was volunteer didn't mean that they didn't take their jobs incredibly seriously. There were 13 dedicated fire stations throughout the city. They didn't have numbers like we normally see. They had names like the Deluge and the Phoenix that were in here. Only two of those, the Deluge and the Phoenix, had paid individuals who were paid to live in the fire station at all times and be on call and ready to respond to any fires that might break out in the city. Let's spend a little time talking about what makes this building so important culturally here in Natchez, Mississippi. This building is tied to the Rhythm nightclub fire that happened on April the 23rd of 1940. That night, Walter Barnes and his Royal Creolians are set to perform at the Rhythm nightclub, only 4 blocks away from here on St. Catherine Street. And 746 members of Natchez's African-American community had flocked to the venue to see the band perform. The cover price was 56 cents a ticket to get in to see the famous band. He was from Chicago, Illinois, and the entire city was abuzz with his visit. The Rhythm nightclub itself was really just a huge corrugated metal building, timber framing with sheets of corrugated metal nailed to the exterior, open rafters at the ceiling. And for that night, Spanish moss had been draped from those ceiling rafters for decoration and sprayed with an insecticide. It was highly flammable. To make conditions even more dangerous, there was only one entrance and one exit at the front of the building. All of the windows and their rear exits had been boarded up to prevent bystanders from either sneaking in or watching the show from outside. So the building was sealed front to back. By the time Walter Barnes took the stage, 746 members of Natchez's community had packed into the Rhythm nightclub to enjoy the show. Around 11 o'clock that evening, a fire broke out right at the entrance to the Rhythm nightclub. Now, there would be an investigation after the fire, but the cause of the fire would never be determined. But what we do know, and what we can only imagine, is that panic broke out. 746 people were trying to get out of the nightclub through one exit. Of course, the first person to be called was the firefighter here, and he took engine number 7 to the nightclub that night. The Rhythm nightclub fire would result in the deaths of 209 members of the African-American community here in Natchez, Mississippi, and still ranks as the second deadliest nightclub fire incident in American history. But we like to believe, and we hope, that because of the efforts of the firemen here at the Phoenix Fire Station, there was less loss of life than there would have been. We know that the men of the Phoenix Fire Station, the Deluge Fire Station, and the 11 other firehouses here in Natchez, Mississippi battled all night long, relentlessly, to put out the fire and to make the loss of life as low as possible. So you can see that this building is not only a beautiful building architecturally, not only is it an incredibly interesting place to make your home or make a rental space, but it also holds a place as one of the most culturally important here in the city of Natchez, Mississippi. So what would it be like to live in a converted firehouse? Is it comfortable? Is it practical? Well, what we can tell you is that upstairs it has 3 enormous bedrooms, high ceilings, bright light through the windows, 2 very, very large bathrooms up here. Then downstairs, we have that Murphy bed and an attached bathroom. So technically you have 4 sleeping spaces in this house. You are quite literally 2 blocks from the downtown shopping area. It is within walking distance of everything. Every festival, every carnival, every event. I'm watching the horse-drawn carriage drive by right now as I'm doing this narration for you. And I think best of all, the most special feature of living in this historic firehouse is the rooftop deck that you have that gives you a view across the entire skyline of this beautiful city. You can see all the steeples of the churches and possibly on a clear day, all the way to the Mississippi River.
Now let's take a look at all the rooms in this Natchez treasure.
have loved taking you inside this historic firehouse today, the first non-residential structure we've shown you so far on Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin. I think so many of its original features still intact. Don't forget, it's double bay doors, its original pump, its pulley, it's all still here, and it's just waiting on you. Now remember, we're not the real estate agents. I'm going to tell you this in every video. We do not have this home listed, we don't represent it, and we don't guarantee it. We can't make you any promises about it. All we can do is share its architectural history and its cultural history with you, and we hope you've enjoyed that. Now, if while you've been watching this tour, you thought to yourself, that might be just the place I've been looking for, we're going to put the Zillow link in the description below. So you can click on that, get in touch with the real estate agent, and she can tell you all the particulars about how to make the Phoenix Firehouse your next home right here in Natchez, Mississippi. Thanks for being with us on Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin at Our Restoration Nation. Make sure you click that subscribe button, give us a like, leave us a comment, tell us what you thought about this tour, and we'll see you next time.